So as he's now in this in-between realm, we can imagine, sometimes when you're going to sleep, and you're in this in-between state, you jump back awake. That means some kind of spirit has attacked your subtle body. So sometimes you're falling asleep, and you're in this kind of limbo in-between state. And then you jump back. It means your subtle body was exiting your gross body, and then some kind of weird spirit, it saw something and it was like, no, better get back inside. Jump backs in the body. Because when you're in the gross body, you're not as susceptible to the other forces. That's why in the sandhyas, the sunrise, sunset, midnight, midday, the veil between matter and spirit and the astral realm is thin. That's why at that time we do our mantras and our meditation, so we can access more easily the higher realms. If you're in Puri, Jagannath Puri, or other holy places in India, other temples, they always make you stand away from the doorway entrance, because at the arti time, they're doing arti in the sandhya. They do arti at the junctions of the day, sunrise, sunset, noon. That's when the veil is very thin, and the devas, the higher beings, and the realm of this earth, and the astral realm, spiritual realm, come together. And so you do arti to the devas at that time. So if you're doing arti in any of these temples, they don't let you block the doorway of the temple room. Stand on the side. The devas are coming and going, accepting their offering. And also when you step, there's always a little step. So there's steps up to the temple, and then there's a threshold step. And they tell you step over that. That is the step that the devas use. You should not put your footprints there. So these things are there. So Ajamil now was in this in-between state, and he was able to witness this very fascinating dialogue between, if you wanted to have an interesting podcast, Vishnu Dutas and the Yama Dutas having a discussion. So the Yama Dutas first, Vishnu Dutas, stop. You cannot take him. The Yama Dutas were thinking, who are these personalities? They're very effulgent. They're obviously not ordinary. They're not afraid of us. Most people they've probably never met someone who's, like when the Yama Dutas are coming to you, you don't say stop. You just that's why people pass urine and stool a lot of at the time of death. They're so afraid when they see the Yama Dutas. And they have this death mask, death face, death stare. Because, my whole life I've been eating animals, I've been hurting people, and then now the results are coming to me. But swalpamapya sadharamasya, you follow a little bit of the right thing, doesn't matter, all the other sins are washed away in a moment. So the Vishnu Dutas say, you do not have a right to take this Ajamil. He is now under our jurisdiction. You should leave. So they challenge them, saying, on what right, on what authority are you saying this? So the Vishnu Dutas said, first you should tell us, you are the messengers of Yamaraj, who is the god of Dharma. He's also called Dharmaraj. He is the judge. He is the Supreme Court Justice of the universe. So you should tell us on what authority you are here. Who is fit to go to the lower regions, and who should be liberated? Who is the supreme authority? That's what the Vishnu Dutas said. Who is the ultimate authority? So there's like a high court, Supreme Court, jurisdiction kind of argument going on. The Yama Dutas were just thinking, we're just doing our job. Who are you to disturb us? We've done this millions of times. Everything's the same. This guy his whole life he's been engaging in sinful activities. He's a thief. He's a murderer. He's a cheat. He gambles and rigs it. He's done all these things. So we should take him. But they had to acknowledge that the supreme authority is Narayan. They had this, and the Yamadutas acknowledged the supreme authority is Narayan. Yamaraj is his servant. So Yamaraj is like the justice of, the judge. His Chitragupta, Yamaraj has an assistant who is described to have all the records of all of our activities. And then he presents this to Yamaraj, and Yamaraj will cast judgment. But Yamaraj is simply a servant of a higher authority. And if you do certain things, it will go out of his kind of court into the higher jurisdiction. So therefore the Vishnuduta said, simply because he has chanted the name Narayan, he is no longer in the court or to be judged by Yamaraj. He is freed from this. Simply by once chanting the name Narayan, all of his sins have been washed away. He's become qualified for liberation. Such is the power of the holy name. That's why we said, Swalpamapyasya dharmasya. Follow a little bit of this dharma even. Chant the holy names. When Gurudev was born, everyone was chanting Shriman Narayan, Narayan, Hari Hari. Narayan, this is the name of Krishna in his abode of Vaikuntha, the opulent abode of the Lord, where he is present with all of his associates performing wondrous pastimes. For us, we chant the name Krishna because it's of a higher abode full of sweetness. But there's so much opulence, but because the sweetness is so great, you cannot even notice the opulence. Therefore, we chant Krishna. Krishna is the reservoir of all pleasure and bliss. When we chant Narayan, Narayan means the shelter of everyone. Narayana, the resting place of all living entities, is Narayan. That's why he's resting. The resting place of all life. But the Vishnuduta said by chanting Narayan, all of his sins have been washed away. That's why Jivedoya Krishna Nam Sarva Dharmasar. The highest compassionate act is to help people by chanting Krishna's names or by eliciting them to chant Krishna's names, by encouraging them to chant. You can do it by yourself chanting. We do Sankirtan, Harinam. This is in our articles of who we are, our incorporation articles. We are performers of Krishna Kirtan. This is the highest compassionate act. It is our duty. Because people, they may have committed a lifetime of the most egregious sins, but merely by chanting Krishna, Sarva Pap, all sinful reactions are burnt to ash. Therefore, the Vishnuduta said, he is absolved of all his sinful reactions. And the Yamadutas were forced to give him up, unleash him. And he again came into his body. And at that time he had two things very auspicious in his life. He had the little bit of the proper idea of the culture of respecting the sadhu. He had that even though he was engaged in sinful activities, he remembered, I was a Brahmin, and I honored the sadhus, I followed these things. So when a sadhu came to him, he honored the sadhu, and so much so that he said, you can name my child Narayan. And then, simply because of that Sukriti, because he made that good choice, then he was calling out to his son Narayan. If he had named his son Bob. In India nowadays, Ritu, Bittu, they give a lot of silly names. You chant your kid's name and that's that kind of name, what's the benefit? No benefit. But swalpamapyasya dharmasya. Even a simple thing like naming your daughter Narayani. Every time you say her name, you're saying Lakshmi's name. Actually Radharani's name. One of her names is Narayani. So there's an interesting thing. In Sasha it says, 1,000 times chanting the name Vishnu or Narayan is equal to once chanting Ram. Rama. Ram means the beloved of Radha, Radhika Ramana, Ram, who is always engaged in blissful pastimes with Srimati Radhika. Once chanting Ram is equal to 1,000 times chanting Narayan or Vishnu. And 3 times chanting Ram is equal to once chanting Krishna. Now the question is, how many times chanting Krishna is equal to chanting Radha? When Krishna himself always sits in meditation and chants Radha, 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 Radha. Therefore we say Radha Nam Parama Sukadai. The name of Srimati Radhika gives the supreme happiness. Therefore we try to, again, nothing else will ultimately save us in life. We can do so much dharma activities, we can do so many things, but unless we cultivate the chanting of the holy names, we will not be saved from the greatest fear. Trayate mahato bayat. To free yourself from the greatest fear, simply chant the holy names of Sri Krishna. This is the remedy. Jive doya Krishna nam sarva dharma sar. This is the most compassionate activity. This is the essence of all dharma. Simply by chanting this name, Ajamil was freed from hell.